Hey, everybody. Today is Thursday, March the 15th, and you're watching FCN Prime News. I'm your anchor, Trezene, and a happy Beware the Ides of March Day to all of you Shakespeare fans out there. We're live from Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope today, so if you're new to the program, welcome. Prime News is the flagship program of the Fifth Column Network, and you can find out all about us at thefifthcolumnnetwork.com. We're on Facebook and YouTube at /The Fifth Column Network, and Prime News is on Instagram and Twitter at FCN_1, which is home of news, business, and everything politics. All right, before we get into the news for today, be sure to share this broadcast with your followers because Facebook be on one, and we are not falling into its algorithm Ponzi scheme payola trap, okay? All right. Remember that comments are totally welcome, and I'll be sure to read them at the end of the broadcast. So stick around because the conversation begins when the broadcast ends. All right? So let's go ahead and get into the news. First up, a teenager has been killed and 2 women injured after package bombs explode in a predominantly black Austin, Texas neighborhood. In Austin, Texas, the past Monday, 2 separate package bombs exploded in the Austin, Texas area, killing a 17-year-old black teen and wounding a 40-year-old black woman. As police held a news conference to discuss those attacks, officers were called to another explosion that injured a 75-year-old Hispanic woman. The attacks come just a few weeks after another package bomb killed a 39-year-old black man just 12 miles away. There's a high chance that these attacks are connected, and they're all happening in predominantly black neighborhoods. And while the Austin police chief at first suggested that the blast could constitute a hate crime, he later backtracked on his statement to say that authorities had not settled on a motive. How much more do you need, Mr. Austin Police Chief, sir? We know body cams and surveillance don't mean a darn thing, so how much more do you need than black folks being targeted with bombs in the current climate of our nation to label this a hate crime? You need a confession? Do you need a note left in the package with "Attention, hate crime"? Just label it for what it looks like and let the burden of proof be on the perpetrator to demonstrate otherwise. Police idiots. Speaking of other crimes in our nation, the sister of Charleston shooter Dylan Roof was arrested Wednesday on charges of bringing weapons and drugs to her South Carolina high school. Morgan Roof, who is age 18, has been charged with simple possession of marijuana and 2 counts of bringing weapons on school grounds. What alarmed the student body, however, was a social media post she made on Snapchat just prior. In the post, Morgan Roof said she hoped that the students participating in National Walkout Day, protesting gun violence, would get shot. In her comment, she said, and I quote, "You're walking out for the allowed time of 17 minutes. They're letting you do this, but nothing's going to change. What the F you think is going to do? I hope it's a trap. We know it's fixing to be nothing but black people walking out anyway. I hope they get shot," unquote. After her brother Dylan Roof murdered 9 black people at a church which he purposefully selected because it's black parishioners, he told FBI agents that he was hoping to start a race war, and now his sister is on one, the same one. Yet white America wants to keep pointing toward mental illness. Psh, it's nurture, my friends. It is all nurture. In this next story, it's a little weird. Alabama sheriff personally pocketed $750,000 in federal, state, and local funds that were supposed to be for feeding the jail inmates. He took that money and bought a $740,000 house and says it's legal. In September, Alabama Sheriff Todd Intrican and his wife Karen purchased an orange 4-bedroom house with an in-ground pool and canal access in the upscale section of Orange Beach, Alabama for $740,000. County residents raised eyebrows trying to figure out how this sheriff, who makes a low 5-figure annual salary, could afford to own multiple houses, let alone this one worth nearly $750,000. But ethics disclosure forms show that Sheriff Todd had filed with the state that showed that it revealed he had, for the last 3 years, been receiving $750,000 in additional compensation from a source he identified as food provisions. The money in the count was allocated by federal, state, and municipal governments to feed the inmates in the jail in which he supervised, but it wasn't used for that purpose. Instead, he personally pocketed it, and he doesn't deny it at all. He says that many Alabama sheriffs have the practice of keeping excess inmate feeding funds for themselves. It's legal under a state law passed before World War II. Yet, in a number of counties in Alabama, they say, no, those funds should be turned back over to the county. He says, and I quote, "As you should be aware, Alabama law is clear to my personal financial responsibilities in the feeding of the inmates, regardless of one's opinion of this statute. Until legislator changes it, I must follow the current law," unquote. Loopholes, loopholes. How much y'all want to bet he gets away with this scot-free? In other news, a woman removes her own eyes in a meth-induced stupor, and folks are glorifying her for her bravery in telling her story. Kaylee Mutthart was found gouging out her own eyes with her own hands outside of a church in Anderson, South Carolina on February 6th of this year. The 20-year-old fought off help from locals while she was in the state of delirium, and it eventually took a team of deputies to restrain her long enough to transport her to the trauma unit at a nearby hospital, where doctors broke the news to her mother that her daughter was completely blind. After an extended stay in the hospital and a psychiatric facility, Mutthart returned to her mother's home on March 1st and had every single white news outlet wanting to help this girl tell her story about being blind, but she now can see with a new outlook on life. Ladies and gentlemen, the humanization of drug users in the meth opioid era in the non-war on drugs. That is where we are. Speaking of humanizing things and people that probably shouldn't be, Jason Freeman, the man claiming to be the grandson of Charles Manson, has been granted the remains of the convicted killer 4 months after his death. Manson's body has been the subject of a legal battle, with numerous people contesting that they should be given the body, including Freeman, another man claiming to be Manson's long-lost son, and Manson's prison pen pal. A Bakersfield, California County Court Commissioner ruled Monday that Freeman is determined to be the surviving competent adult next of kin of Manson because there was no evidence to the contrary to show otherwise. Freeman claims to be the son of Manson's son, Charles Manson Jr., who later changed his name to Jay White to avoid association with Manson. White died by suicide in 1993. In November, Freeman, who is an oil rig worker, told people that he never met Manson during the killer's incarceration in state prison in California, but had spoken to him on the phone. And according to the report, Freeman said that he got to know his long-lost grandfather over the last 8 years of his life and deemed the killer a, quote, kind and giving person, unquote. For those who need a reminder on what kind and giving means, Manson was in prison for life without parole for his role in the infamous Tate LaBianca murders in August of '69 after his followers killed 7 people in a 2-day spree, including pregnant actor Sharon Tate. Well, that's a new definition of kind and giving than I am familiar with. In international news, a prominent activist and politician in Brazil was murdered last night, reportedly in response to her being an outspoken critic of police violence and deploying the army into poor neighborhoods of Rio in Brazil. The Brazilian activist, 2 police officials told the Associated Press that 2 men in a car fired 9 gunshots into the vehicle carrying the activist Franco and her driver on Wednesday night. A press officer in the back seat was injured but survived, the officials said. Both officials said that Mario Franco was definitely targeted. Protests are being held all across Brazil after the popular Rio City councilor and her driver were shot dead by 2 men and appears to what have been that targeted assassination. They said that there were signs all over the place showing that it was definitely a very professional hit. Rio City councilor Mario Franco was a gay black woman who defied the odds of Rio politics to win the 5th highest vote count among council members when she was elected in 2016. She was an expert on police violence and had recently accused officers of being overly aggressive in searching residents of gang-controlled shanty towns. A member of the leftist party, Franco was also known for her social work in the slums. This was her first term in office. Rest in heaven, Mario Franco. In Florida, a teen raised over $100,000 to send young girls to see the movie A Wrinkle in Time. 3 months ago, Taylor Richardson created a GoFundMe page to raise money to send just 1,000 girls to see Ava DuVernay's latest film. She wrote on her donation page that the movie featured a girl in the lead role of a science fiction movie, and that was something new for her. Richardson said, and I quote, "A brown girl front and center who looks like me in the role of Meg. A girl traveling to different planets and encountering beings and situations that I'd never seen a girl of color in. It shows young black girls deserving a chance to be part of the sci-fi cultural canon," unquote. Richardson had wanted to raise just a mere $15,000 to send girls to see the film, but ended up exceeding her goal by over $85,000. Celebrities caught wind of her plans and donated major dollars to her GoFundMe. Earlier this month on Good Morning America, Oprah surprised Richardson with a $50,000 donation. Director J.J. Abrams gave $10,000, and actor Chris Pine, who stars in Wrinkle in Time, donated $25,000 as well. The teen is no stranger to raising money. Her previous fundraising efforts raised $20,000 to send girls to the screening of Hidden Figures and to send herself to space camp. Good work to Miss Taylor Richardson. Back in international news, people in China are losing their minds over this journalist's truly epic eye roll on live TV. Basically, here's what happened. During China's annual parliamentary session, the woman pictured here in red asked a government official a fawning, long-winded question, and the woman in blue wasn't having any of it. Most of the questions asked at the session, particularly those raised by state media reporters, are heavily scripted in advance to incorporate heavy-handed praise of government policies. The whole thing is so dull that delegates have sometimes been caught napping on camera. So this eye roll really struck a nerve. Take a look at the video capturing this moment.
美国全美电视执行台长张慧君，我的问题是，以管资本为主转变国资监管职能是当下大家都普遍关注的一个话题。那么作为国资委主任，2018年在这一领域您将会推出哪些新的举措？今年正值改革开放40周年，我们国家要进一步扩大对外开放。习总书记倡导“一带一路”的倡议，国企对“一带一路”沿线国家的投资力度加大。那么，国有企业的海外资产将如何的得到有效的监管，以防止国有企业资本的流失？我们推出了哪些监管机制？监管的效果又如何？请您为大家做一下介绍，谢谢。
Why did she look her up and down like that? Listen, if you needed any proof of that Chinese people are real close to black people, that eye roll was everything. In a screenshot of a chat conversation that was leaked online and published on the site of What's Weibo, she told a coworker that she rolled her eyes because the next woman to me was being an idiot, and that question was even longer than the answer. This being China, though, they did not take too well to this undiplomatic eye roll. This Chinese reporter eye roll cost her her media accreditation to cover Communist Party meetings. Her personal Weibo page, which is China's Twitter-like microblogging service, was completely taken down, and search results of her name have been completely censored. This is the China under the rule of President Xi, who, as I reported during Monday's broadcast, now serves as China's president for the rest of his life after a new constitutional amendment last week. Back in the U.S., the Census Bureau has announced that the 2020 census will ask Black Americans about their exact origins. For the 2020 census, the U.S. Census Bureau has changed some of the questions that it's asking. Among them, Black people will be asked to designate their race, which means that many people will have to take a closer look at their family trees to define their ethnic origin. The Census Bureau has said it's trying to respond to calls for more, I quote, more detailed, disaggregated data for our diverse American experiences, unquote. While I can see how Black immigrants may have some answers for this, for my U.S.-born Black Americans whose parents are U.S.-born Black Americans, whose parents are U.S.-born Black Americans, our answer's gonna be American, and it better be on there, and it better not have slavery. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of race and origins, a woman discovers she's white after 70 years of thinking she's just a light-skinned black woman. Verda Bird was adopted by a black family and grew up thinking she was a light-skinned black woman until 2014, when she found out her biological parents were both white. Bird, who published a book, quote, 70 Years of Blackness in December 2017, said she never questioned her race until she began researching her biological family in 2013. She says, I didn't know what I was, she said. It was never told to me that I was white.
Girl, please.
Bird is the biological daughter of Daisy and Earl Beagle, a poor white couple with 4 other children at the time of her birth. Her father abandoned the family in 1943, and then her mother sustained a traumatic injury after falling from a trolley when Bird was 5 months old. The children were later taken by the state. Daisy regained custody of all of Bird's siblings, except for Bird, who was adopted by Ray and Edwina Wagner, a black couple who renamed her Verda Ann. She was raised as an only child. Here's a pic of young Verda with her adoptive parents looking like a bona fide, light-skinned black woman. Bird eventually had a reunion with 3 of her biological sisters, Sybil Panko, Debbie Romero, Kathleen Gutierrez, but the happy reunion was short-lived when Panko used the N-word. Panko died in 2016 and Bird was banned from the funeral, a request in writing from her sister Panko. She has since not been able to talk to any of her sisters who have rejected her, and she has been dismayed by this rejection. So when is someone gonna help this woman piece together the missing part of this puzzle? Your mama done dipped off in some chocolate, honey. And since your parents were married, you were automatically presumed the legal and biological child of that white man. That is the part you missing, Verda. You's partially a white black woman, and you have been living correctly for 70 years as a light-skinned black woman. Jesus, Lord have mercy.
Them nigga nostrils don't lie. Come on, story over.
Them Negro nostrils is over. That was my last story for today. The ridiculousness of it all. Let's see what comments we have on Facebook. Tanisha Newman Pruitt says, a confession wouldn't even get it labeled a hate crime. That's a sad state of affairs when someone says, yeah, I hate you Negroes, and it's like, doesn't really amount to being a hate crime. I don't even know, has anyone ever been charged with a hate crime in like recent times? I don't even know what that even looks like. I might have to look into that and maybe do a little special news coverage of what does a hate crime look like for white people. I don't know. Anthony Michael Williams says, lock the whole Roof family up. Yes, yes. I feel like she wants to take on where her brother left off. It's insane. It's insane. I don't know. She didn't even bring guns to school, by the way. I don't think I reported that. She had like knives and other stuff, but she didn't bring any ammunition and guns. But yeah, she was ready to get up close and personal, which I think is typical of most female serial shooters. She was gonna get that work. Let's see. Yes, Tanisha agreed with you, Anthony. Throw the whole Roof family away. She also said she didn't get shot, though. Who didn't get shot? I don't know what that's in reference to. Anthony Michael Williams comments on the census story of, so the government's paying for this ancestral test now? Right. So are we all going to be required now to go to Ancestry DNA and get the test and report where we're from? Or are they just going to enact some new constitutional legislation to invade our privacy and subpoena our information from Ancestry DNA?
No, they already know it. They're going to release our records. Listen,
boy.
Listen. Hold on. Let's hold on.
You about to come on at the desk?
No,
okay.
I'm about to come on screen. Okay. Let's talk about this.
All right.
You're talking about white people.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Whom are very financially astute, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Are you telling me that white people whom have receipts for every purchase they have made for 1,000 years and record, they can go back talking about all the way to the Magna Carta, and you telling me that they don't have records of each and every African that they purchased? and that they brought. Are you?
Yikes! I never thought about that.
That there are families who do not. That there are census records of actual purchase of human beings and who owned who. They have the records. They have the receipts. Do not be fooled because it is coming. Listen. I'm telling you.
Yikes!
I'm telling you, y'all all gonna be like, wait, what? And now all of a sudden they want to know, who are you? Why?
Oh my God!
You trying to tell me right now that you getting ready to be back in bondage and you for your rights and your whole person's.
Oh my God! That's horrible.
Listen, man,
that's horrible.
I don't know. The implications seem real.
I think we should talk about that on the Sunday edition. Just implications all over the place. Yikes! Right. Okay. So Tone, you was going where I was going. Reparations sound real good right about now.
What's gonna happen?
You know the UN has called for it. The UN made a statement like saying y'all need to give them reparations, but they like, nah, we about to get them on this ancestry DNA. Yikes!
And maybe that's to start. Like, okay, we gonna clear it out because the same thing happened with the Native Americans. Like to, and try to figure this whole thing out. Like, who's so much African American? Like, let me tell you who get ready to get played. All those people that don't want to be black.
Yeah.
And then try to be black. Y'all not finna be black. Okay?
Yowzers.
So everybody that's like, no,
yowzers.
I'm from here and that. No, you stay from there. You stay over there. No. Remember, you're from over there. You're not black. I don't want to hear about the African diaspora now. You're not black. You don't get no money. Remember?
Yes.
You're from an island. You're 100% Boricua. You're 100% Dominican. You don't get no money again. You
Oh my God.
Stay your ass over there. You don't get nothing. You don't get nothing. Watch what I tell you. You about to wrap this up, baby?
I'm about to wrap this up. One comment of clarification from Tanisha Newman Pruitt said the meth head, she didn't get shot. Right. Exactly. You over some train tracks or wherever you were gouging your eyes out and people tried to help you and restrain you. They didn't just shoot you and be like, let's get on with the next one. You absolutely right. Yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. Y'all know what we do on Thursdays is back-to-back programming. So coming up next will be the Thursday Wind Down hosted by Starla K. Mathis. We talk about all kinds of things that's happening and we'll just have good conversation over some wine, and definitely we'll recap the episodes of Scandal and How to Get Away with Murder. And then following that will be True Baller Thursday with J. Cole Is It and the Reggie Mathis to talk about everything NBA. And for those who don't know, we do have programming on Friday nights on Facebook and our website. We have a great horror science fiction type film every Friday night. It's the best film you ever seen. They're not. They're the most hilariously terrible science fiction films you could ever see, and they're fun. So make sure you like, subscribe, and follow to all of our pages to make sure that you get notifications when everything is happening here. With that, I'm Trezene. This has been another episode of FCN Prime News. I will see you guys next Monday at 7 p.m. ish.